So we are continuing the Lord teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So we are in the chapter, Bhattacharya conversion. So Bhattacharya then asked Lord Chaitanya to explain the famous Atmarama verse, as he desired to hear it from the Lord. Lord Chaitanya replied to him that first of all he should explain the verse according to his own understanding. Then Lord Chaitanya would explain it by his own understanding. Bhattacharya then began to explain Atmarama Sloka with his method of logic and grammar. He explained at the Atmarama verse Sloka in 9 different ways. The Lord appreciated his erudite scholarship in explaining the verse and said, "My dear Bhattacharya, I know that you are personally a representation of the learned scholar like Bruhaspati, and you can explain any portion of the Shastras in such a nice way. And yet, your explanation is more or less based on academic education only. But there is another explanation beside the academic scholarly explanation. So then, at the request of Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya explained the Atmarama Sloka. Thus, on the basis of the analytical parts of the verse is explained as follows. Atmarama, second is Cha, Munaya, Nirgrandha, Api, Urukrama, Kurvanti, Ahituki, Bhaktim, Itambuta, Gunaha, Harihi. This verse is already explained in connection with the Lord's teachings to Sanatana Goswami. Lord Chaitanya did not touch the 9 different explanations of Bhattacharya, but he explained on the basis of analysis of the verse, and each analytical basis he divided into 5 or 6. In this way, he expounded a total of 61 different explanations of Atmarama verse. It is summarized then that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of innumerable potencies. Nobody can estimate how many transcendental qualities are possessed by him. They are always inconceivable, and any process of self realization generally inquires into these inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his energies and his qualities. But those who are devotees at once accept this inconceivable position of the Supreme Lord. He explained that even great liberated souls like Kumaras and Sukadeva Goswami also became attracted to the transcendental quality of Supreme Lord. Bhattacharya then appreciated the explanation of yeah, concluded that Lord Chaitanya is other than Krishna himself, and he began to deprecate his own in his own position. He related that at first he had considered Lord Chaitanya as an ordinary human being, and therefore he felt that he had been offensive to the identity of Lord Chaitanya. He fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord Chaitanya, deprecating his own position, and requested Lord Chaitanya to show his causeless mercy upon him. Lord Chaitanya appreciated the humbleness of such a great learned scholar. He therefore exhibited his own form, first with 4 hands, then the 6-handed form called Shadbhuj. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then repeatedly fell down on the lotus feet of the Lord and began to pray with various kinds of prayers composed by himself. He was a great scholar, undoubtedly, and after receiving the causeless mercy of the Lord, he was empowered to explain the Lord's activities in different ways, such as being able to express the benefit of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is said that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then composed 100 verses in appreciation of the Lord's activities. And those verses are so important that even Bruhaspati, the learned scholar in the heavenly planet, could not compose such nice verses. The Lord was very much pleased by hearing his composition of 100 verses, and he embraced Bhattacharya by his touching. Bhattacharya became overwhelmed with ecstasy and practically became unconscious. He was crying, sometimes trembling, sometimes shivering, sometimes perspiring, sometimes dancing, sometimes singing. And in this way, he fell at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. His brother-in-law Gopinath Acharya and the devotees of the Lord were surprised to see the condition of Bhattacharya as he was transferred into a great devotee. Gopinath Acharya addressed the Lord and began to thank him. Sir, it is by your grace only that Bhattacharya has been transformed from his stone-like position into such a devotee. Lord Chaitanya replied to Gopinath Acharya that due to a devotee's favor upon others, a stone-like man can be transformed into a mild flower-like devotee. Actually, Gopinath Acharya, the brother-in-law of the Bhattacharya, had sincerely desired that such a scholar as Bhattacharya should become a devotee of the Lord. He had sincerely desired that Lord show favor to Bhattacharya and was glad to see his desire fulfilled by Lord Chaitanya. In other words, a devotee of the Lord is more merciful than Lord himself. When a devotee desires to show his mercy to a person, the Lord accepts and is by his grace such a person become a devotee. Lord Chaitanya pacified Bhattacharya and asked him to go home. Bhattacharya again began to praise the Lord and said, "You have descended yourself to deliver all the fallen souls of this material world. The project is not so difficult for you, but you have turned a stone-hearted man like me. That is your wonderful act. I am very expert at logical argument, grammatical explanation of the Vedic process. I am hard as a lump of iron, but your influence and temperature is so strong that you could melt away even hard iron like me." Lord Chaitanya then returned to his place and Bhattacharya through Gopinath Acharya sent various kinds of prasadam from Jagannath temple. The next day the Lord went to see the temple of Jagannatha early in the morning, which is called Mangala Arati. The priests in the temple brought him a garland from deity and offered him various kinds of prasadam. The Lord was very much pleased to receive them, and he at once went to the house of Bhattacharya, taking prasadam and the flowers to present Bhattacharya. It was early in the morning, and Bhattacharya understood that Lord had come and was knocking on his door. He at once rose up from his bed and began to say, "Krishna, Krishna," which was heard by Lord Chaitanya, and at once he came to the door and opened it and saw Lord standing there. He was so pleased to see the Lord early in the morning and wanted to receive him with all care. He again offered him a nice seat. Both of them sat there, and Lord Chaitanya offered him the prasadam which he had received in the temple of Jagannatha. Bhattacharya was very glad to receive prasadam from the hand of Lord Chaitanya, and without taking his bath and without performing his daily duties of or washing his teeth, he began immediately to eat prasadam. Actually, he was now freed from all contamination of material attachment, and he cited verse from Padma Purana as he began to eat prasadam. In Padma Purana, it is stated that when prasadam is brought or received, even if it has become very dry or it is even very old or brought from a distant place, as soon as it is received, it must be eaten immediately without following any of the rules or duties of one's daily activities. It is enjoined in the Shastra that prasadam should be immediately taken and there is no restriction of time and place. Time and space. That is the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, there are restrictions in accepting foodstuff from different kinds of people, but there are no such restrictions in accepting the prasadam from different kinds of people, neither a restriction as to time, place, or atmosphere. Prasadam is always transcendental and it can be taken under any condition. So, so here, Bhattacharya asked Lord Chaitanya to explain famous Atmarama verse, and Mahaprabhu asked Bhattacharya to start explaining, asked Bhattacharya to do first. So Bhattacharya began to explain Atmarama slokas in 9 different ways, and his method is always only logic and grammar. And when Bhattacharya asked Lord Chaitanya to explain, you know, uh, there are there are 9 parts of the words, and for each word, Mahaprabhu explained in five or different six different ways. Total, he had 61 different explain of the Atmarama words. And Mahaprabhu also said even the great liberated souls, also become attracted to the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then Bhattacharya appreciated Lord Chaitanya, concluded that, Chaitanya is none other than Krishna himself. He fell down his lotus feet. He wants to beg his pardon and mercy, and as he realized that, what he was doing in front of the Supreme Lord himself. And then, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's composed 100 verses in appreciation of the Lord activities, and I think which were very well appreciated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And no one like even Brihaspati can able to, describe or compose those kind of verses in appreciating Lord's or glorifying the Lord activities. So I think here you see that, Bhattacharya has been transformed from his stone-like position to a devotee, and with devotee favor, even if devotee is more merciful than Lord, merciful than the Lord, when devotee desires and shows his mercy on the fallen, I think Lord will accept and also be and also happy that. And also, then they talk about Jagannath Puri pastime. uh, Mahaprabhu attended the Mangalarti and took the prasadam of Jagannath ji to Bhattacharya. And as Bhattacharya understood that Lord is at his door, and he opened the door, and he says mentioned that prasadam is always transcendental. It can be taken any under condition, so there is no restriction of time and space. As soon as it is received, one can eat it. One can eat it without following any rules and duties of daily activities.